Welcome back. Today's story filled with drama and unexpected turns. Hit like, subscribe, and let's jump in.
I was at my desk with my coffee, trying to enjoy a quiet moment. My assistant had made it, but she used artificial sweetener again, and I joked about switching to tea because I prefer my tea black. My mind kept drifting to the copyright case I was handling. It was stuck waiting for federal approval to release some sensitive documents. Like always, the government was dragging its feet. Working with them often felt like a long, slow battle where nobody wanted to make decisions or take responsibility. It got me thinking about how many hands a simple request had to go through before anything got done. Without that approval, I couldn't move forward, and it left me frustrated since delaying meant I might end up paying out of my own pocket for things that could go to waste. Times had changed so much, what used to be simple had become ridiculously complicated. Even job titles like secretary were practically gone now, replaced with terms so neutral they barely made sense. Honestly, I was starting to feel like I was too old for all this. "There is a young lady here to see you," Hannah said as she entered through my office door. She wouldn't give me her name, but she gave me this picture for you to look at. As I looked at the picture, my face filled with dread. Son of a, I thought, why now? It was of Lillian, my ex, and me. She was in her wedding dress. It had been taken over 13 years ago, a part of my life that had taken me a lot of time to put behind me. Looking at the picture brought back the pain, the cheating, and the tears. Those who knew me back then had assumed I had come back to lick my wounds, and in that part, they'd been right. At that time in life, I didn't understand money or power, or how it was used for advantage. I had been naive, but no more. Time had changed me. "Ask her if her name is either Audrey or Eva," I replied as I took a file stick in a Ziploc bag out of a drawer and handed it to her. "If it is, use your computer to show her the video on this. If she requests a copy, give her everything on the stick and return the original one to me. When she's gone, come back, and I'll answer any questions you may have." At 38, I had gracefully accepted the bachelor life. My short 2-year marriage to Lillian Carter had soured me forever. As a result, I was unable to blindly trust people I didn't know. Now, people had to earn my trust, and that was very hard to do. Being 6 feet 3 inches with a 38-inch waist, I carried my 215 pounds well. After sitting at the office desk all day, I would normally spend 2 hours at the local gym working out. My brownish-black hair was just beginning to show a touch of gray. I could still turn a woman's head. As a result, I had a couple of friends with benefits. Marriage and love were not for me. About an hour later, Hannah returned to my office, leaving the door open to return the stick, explaining that the young lady in question still had many questions that needed answers. She took a chair, sitting down. Hannah, when she got her serious face on, became determined. She would not leave until she got her answers. Looking at me directly with her emerald eyes, she waited for me to speak. "Which one was it? Do you know?" I asked. "Sophia," she replied. "Who is she, and why was she so surprised at what she heard and saw?" When she heard the woman's voice and threats, she broke down in tears, saying, "For all our lives, we've been lied to. If what I feel in my heart is true, he was lied to as well. She's one half of a set of identical twins." The clip you both watched was her mother's last words to me in a private meeting. It was held in the courthouse before our first divorce court hearing, that was almost 7 months before they were born. I learned about them through friends years later. I was not informed by her that she was pregnant. The rest of the items on that stick detail what would happen if I ever made contact with her. "Her father at that time was employed by the CIA," I replied. "He caused me to be fired from the FBI because of his hate for me and with trumped-up charges. The documents on that file imply that there might be a contract on my life. It would go into effect if I interfered with any of them. It's always been a threat I took seriously. Her father was a dangerous, powerful man who always got his way, regardless of the cost. She divorced me so she could marry my former best friend. They had been having an affair for at least 3 months by that time, as far as I know. He is their natural father. So, how did she find me, and what does she want?" As Hannah explained it, she found that old picture in the attic of their home with the name, Samuel William Harrison, written on the back. She did a Google search, saw my picture, and knew it was me. After further searching in the attic, she found a copy of the original marriage certificate and the corresponding divorce. It was almost impossible to find, Hannah stated. From Facebook, she got the name of your hometown and did a web search for a listing that brought her here. She's come all this way to find a bone marrow match for her twin sister because she believes her sister is running out of time. Why would she come here? I'm not their father, this doesn't make sense, I replied. Her mother was already seeing their father months before I even knew Lillian's father made sure of that. The law of averages alone makes it logical that he is their natural father. You heard her when she said that marrying you had been a big mistake because you came from the wrong side of the tracks. Her father and your former friend finally made her see that fact. It appears that Sophia had suspicions. She privately convinced the doctors who were doing the bone marrow test to do a DNA test to resolve her questions. It appears that Mr. Harrison is not their biological father. What do you think of that? The look on my face must have said it all because Hannah's expression changed from seriousness to a big smile. I had tears forming in my eyes. If what Sophia was claiming was true, it meant that everything my ex had told me so long ago had been lies. I had to wonder if there was a possibility that I was a dad. I knew the moment I saw her that she was related to you, Hannah said as she stood up. She has a certain look that makes that fact so perfectly clear. Are you ready for perhaps the biggest shock in years? Hannah, send the information on the stick to my publishers. Let them know we want the information released in such a way that it can never be traced back. Tell them not to disclose my writing name because my life might still be at risk. Stress that I need it to be made public as quickly as possible. Then, find someone who can do a DNA test fast and set up the appointment. If I am their father, I want the proof in hand when I go to confront their mother. If it's true, I need a litigation lawyer who's willing to fight for my parental rights. Clear the schedule, I'll need to go to Sophia's hospital ASAP, I said. Now, I've got to go try to find Sophia. Sophia, it went as I said it would. Could you please come in and introduce yourself? Hannah said. Sophia walked in with a proud expression. The moment I saw her, there was no doubt. Sophia, at 16, was inch by inch a younger version of my younger sister. I wanted to speak, but I choked. I was in total shock, the genetics were visible to the naked eye. I started to cry. I guess Sophia saw it too, because her own tears started to flow. We must have looked like a pair of fools. Hannah took a few shots with her cell to capture this life-changing moment. Hannah left us alone to our thoughts for a few moments. There are times in our lives when we don't know what to do or say. For Sophia and me, this was one of those times. When Hannah came back in, she brought us both back to reality. Sophia, you have an appointment for blood testing at 1, Hannah said. They promised to do it on a rush, I charged it to the corporate card. I also made arrangements for you to meet your sister Eleanor at Martino's at 3 and reserved a private table. Sophia needs to see what we do. I told Eleanor to make sure she had coverage for when her younger children get off the school bus. She asked why. I explained that you had some very good family news you had to share that couldn't wait. I stood there, lost in an emotional state, not knowing what to say, while watching Sophia walking towards me. I had so many questions rushing through my mind. I automatically drew her into my arms, holding her tight as Hannah closed the door, leaving us to our thoughts. It was hard for me to comprehend that I was a dad. I had so many questions, yet I didn't know what to say. I guess Sophia was experiencing the same thing, her body felt like it was trembling. From the moment we left my office, Sophia and I kept it light, trying simply to do everything just right, taking baby steps as we tried to figure it out. After arranging at the clinic for copies of the report to be emailed to me, we headed out for a late lunch. I learned that Sophia had skipped school, driven all day until exhaustion won before pulling off at a rest station to sleep. I felt furious that a girl so young would do something so foolish in this day and age but bit my tongue. I wondered if I was reacting just like an overprotective dad. It also crossed my mind that I would have done something like that at her age without giving it any thought. I noticed Eleanor's car as we pulled into Martino's parking lot. I know we're here to meet your sister, but I have to wonder why Hannah set this up without talking to you first, Sophia questioned. You're about to see what both Hannah and I did when we first met you, I replied. It will explain to you why we seem to be acting like there's no doubt that Audrey and you are definitely my daughters. It will also explain why I was shocked when the test comes back positive. Can I call you Dad? Sophia said. I laughed with a big smile. I wouldn't have it any other way. Martino's was a family restaurant, a little better than the Red Lobster chain with a reputation that was beyond reproach. The owner and hostess led us towards our private booth as soon as she saw me. As we approached our table, I ordered a bottle of one of their best-selling champagnes and asked if they could supply us with a few extra tissues. Eleanor was sitting with her back toward us, so it gave me a brilliant idea. I asked Sophia if she could hold up for a bit as I approached our table. "Hi, sis. Thanks for meeting me," I said, standing at the end of the booth. Looking up, Eleanor responded, "You look extremely happy. What's up?" "Eleanor, please stand up. There's a young lady I want you to meet," I said as she stood up while Sophia approached. "This is Lillian's daughter, Sophia." Eleanor turned around and looked. It was as if she were looking in a mirror. To onlookers, they could be sisters. Both had long brunette hair, high cheeks, and small ears that laid flat, with a pear shape to their frames. Light blue eyes sparkled with a smile that could melt the coldest heart. "Oh my God!" Eleanor screamed in shock. "Damn you, John. You should have prepared me for this. It's unbelievable, I don't know what to say. How long have you known about your daughter?" Sophia and Eleanor just looked at each other, both holding the palms of their hands over their mouths, adjusting to the ultimate surprise. They were both trying to hold in the tears. "About 5 hours," Sophia said emotionally. "I never suspected something like this. I sprung it on him when I showed up at his office. As soon as Hannah saw me, she had no doubts, neither did Dad. But seeing you, I now understand why." By the time the server came back with the hostess, they understood why I had asked for extra tissues and privacy. Eleanor, between tears, explained that 3 more would be joining us, so the hostess moved us to a larger table further back. Eleanor called her husband and told him to leave work for the rest of the afternoon and join us at Martino's as soon as possible. I don't know what Caleb said, but Eleanor came down on him as if she were dropping a ton of bricks. She called our parents and got Mom. Eleanor said it was a family emergency to grab Dad and get here fast. Mom asked what was wrong. Eleanor said she couldn't explain. "I was too busy crying," Eleanor added. In truth, we all were in our own way. I got a text from Hannah saying the publisher had released the information and it would break on the evening news. We had just calmed down by the time we had finished our first glass of champagne. It was Sophia's first taste. I saw Caleb and my parents being escorted in. I had to laugh when I heard my dad say in his deep loud voice, "If there's not a big reason, I'm going to be kicking someone's butt." I stood up to greet them, so did Eleanor. "Mom, Dad, and Caleb, I want to introduce you to Lillian's daughter, Sophia Harrison," Eleanor said proudly. My mother saw it right away, just like we had. The biggest smile I have ever seen came across her face. I could see her pride growing. One look at Sophia had told her all she needed to know. She finally had the granddaughter she always wanted. My dad was flabbergasted. I loved it because he finally did not know what to say. 3 generations of females carried the same frame and face. When he finally spoke, he said, "I see it right before my eyes, but I'm finding it hard to believe." My mother sat beside Sophia, holding her hand tightly. If Mom had her way, she would never let it go. I knew she was just too emotional to speak. My dad ordered 2 more bottles and tried to hold in his glowing pride. After the server left with our glasses refilled, I stood up holding one in my hand. "I guess I need to explain," I said. Sophia took my cell phone and started to video everything. I disclosed how we had met and what had transpired so far during the day. My dad stood up and spoke. "Sophia, we don't have to wait for the DNA test to tell us what we already know is real. As the head of the family, welcome to your father's family's home. Just so you know, you have 2 other aunts with families that you will soon meet. Promise us that no matter where you roam, you will always consider this side of your family your second home." Sophia handed me my cell, and I recorded her as she spoke. I came down here on a mission, searching for the truth, not knowing what I would find. This day has totally blown my mind. The truth now revealed has forever changed Dad's and my life. Neither one of us knew. I wasn't sure until I met Aunt Eleanor. I don't think I ever understood what unconditional love was until today. I'm sure when you meet my identical twin sister, Audrey, she will experience it too. I scanned the table as everyone lost it, even my father, who thought it was unmanly to cry. I could see tears flowing from his eyes, so much for his stiff upper lip. My mother held up 2 fingers, crying even louder. I caught the whole table sharing their joyful tears before I stopped the video recording. Sophia picked up my phone, adding her and her sister's info into my contacts. Sophia began texting her sister, letting her know what she had found before attaching the video. Showing it to me, it read, "What we thought was possible is true. Sending video. Getting blood tests to confirm using our biodad's cell." I added, "Watch the 6 national news," then sent it. "You're a twin?" my mother asked, still in disbelief. Sophia opened her purse and turned her cell phone on to show her new grandmother a bunch of photos of Audrey and her together. My mother, of course, demanded copies be sent to her laptop right away. As soon as she got them, she brought them up on the full screen to show everyone. Sophia turned off her phone before putting it back in her purse. That's when I understood that no one she knew had any idea where she was. My phone began ringing. I checked the screen, it was Audrey. I stood up and walked away. My dad knew something was up when he saw me tear up. He looked at me with questioning eyes. Sophia mouthed, "It's my sister." My dad nodded and moved on as I answered it. "Hello, this is Audrey. After seeing the video, I just had to call," she said. "Mom won't be here until at least 7 because she's stopping at the police station hoping for a positive update on Sophia. I'm still playing dumb, they were here earlier to find out what I knew. One of them left me their card. Any ideas on what I should do? Get him to watch the 6 News. Make it clear he must pay attention to what is revealed about me. Once he has done that, tell him you'll talk with him when your mother and father are not present. Be sure to tell him the whole truth, show him the video clip. You can give him my number so he can contact me. Tell him to send a text identifying himself first before he calls. When he watches the news, he will understand why," I replied. "Once we have the DNA proof in our hands, I can't tell you that Sophia and I won't be coming alone. We might be bringing the whole tribe." "What do you mean?" Audrey asked. "When I explain to the table that Sophia did this to try to help you, the word will spread amongst the family like leaves blowing in the wind. I don't know how many will come, but those who can, will." "Why?" she said. "Your family," I stated. "For the Lawrence family, although it's old world, blood is always thicker than water. If I'm not a good enough match, someone else may be, just that simple. No doubt on my end, but you'll have to see to believe it," I said with a chuckle. "After all, we are strangers." We talked for a few minutes before I said goodbye, and she replied in sobs of relief. After ordering our dinners, I explained to the family why Sophia had come into my life today. Immediately, the cell phones got overworked. They called a few people, explaining what was going on and told them to pass the word that we needed as many as we could get to go and hope to find a match. My mother became the organizer of what was being planned. "Sophia," my father asked, "how did you get down here?" "I drove my old 2001 Subaru Legacy. It's one step up from Rent-A-Wreck," she laughed. "It's sitting in Dad's parking lot. Son, get that piece of junk to my dealership in the morning. There's no way I could ever let my granddaughter drive back in that." "It's a miracle she made it here," my dad said firmly. "I have to admit, at her age, you had about as much common sense as she does." "She acted like a bull in a china shop, nothing was going to get in her way," he added. "Okay, so what do you plan to give her?" I asked. "She can pick one out for herself," he replied with a wink and a smile. "If I could have my choice, it would be some kind of 4x4 because of my love of the outdoors," Sophia replied. My dad responded with a big grin because we were all lovers of the outdoors. If the weather allowed, we were either out on the lake fishing, camping, or hunting. Then off he went, describing the summer I learned to water ski barefoot. When he got to telling his tall tales, it was like he was holding court, and he had many. I was given no choice. Both my parents felt that Sophia should go home with them. It would not look good at this time for Sophia and me to be alone for the night under the circumstances. I had to admit they were right. So, after the meal was over, Dad drove them over to her vehicle, then drove it home. My mother was on cloud 9 and was making plans to spoil her newest granddaughter. Dad ended up waiting until 1 a.m. for them to get home. It was about 10 at night when the police investigator called me. It took him a good 2 hours to do a background check on me. The media was having a field day. The information I had released was causing a lot of questions. We discussed the whole situation and the problems related to it. He said when he saw the 3 generations in the video clip, it erased many questions in his mind. I explained that we were having DNA tests done in a rush to prove our relationship and that Sophia was with my parents. As soon as we got confirmation, we would head back to see if I could be a match for Audrey. I asked if he could buy us some time, and he told me to text him with our progress. I said I would and agreed to meet with him when we arrived. I was later told by Audrey that he had reported back to her about what we had discussed. I was facing the past again. This time, I had a different point of view. This time, I would not be intimidated by my ex-wife's family's power and money. I would use the media, the courts, and the facts to my advantage. I had the resources, the proof, and a willpower that was building to the extreme. I didn't want revenge. I wanted what I wrote about, the justice found only in the truth. I was sitting in my office the next morning, making sure any changes in my schedule wouldn't affect me that much. I was setting up what research work Hannah could be doing while I was gone. Hannah was checking the email accounts every few minutes. She was acting like an overprotective mother hen. She had questioned me about my day, squeezing out all the details she could. To be honest, I would never tire of looking at Hannah Reeves. When she was younger, she had to have been every teenage boy's dream. The way her brown hair was styled naturally accented her soft facial features, which could capture you by surprise. Those piercing bright emerald green eyes and full, thick lips that seemed to beg to be kissed were still a sight to behold. These were things a single man dreamed of, and I know I did. I had often wondered how many husbands got slapped for having their eyes locked on her. I was still thankful that she had not caught me looking at her like that. She might have knocked my block off. Finally, she got the DNA test results, printed them out, and yelled, "It's confirmed, you are her father." Hannah called the lab right away, asking them to send the information to Audrey's specialist automatically. She started looking for the toughest litigation lawyer in the state of Texas. Once she checked out a few, she selected the best and arranged a Skype chat for me. The chat went well. The lawyer agreed to work on a percentage basis because, with the DNA proof, he felt it was a slam dunk. We would go after my ex-wife, her husband, and her parents for conspiring to deny me my fatherly rights. The court order they had served me with that restricted me from ever contacting them would not only be squashed but also serve as proof that their actions were deliberate. The fact that they produced a contract on my life that would automatically be triggered if I contacted any of them, even if it was not factual, could be used to show their attempt to intimidate and control me. The lawyer saw the chance to make millions, even before taking on the government. I told Hannah to take the gray dust-covered box out of the back of the safe and send the data it contained by airmail to my new lawyer. It was the legal proof needed to demonstrate that Lillian's father had deliberately tried to destroy my career and former marriage. It had taken years of research through several government levels to collect it. I learned later that by the time I had talked to the lawyer, the police officer had released the video explaining that they had located Sophia. The media turned the story into "Runaway Daughter Goes to Find Her Biological Dad in Order to Save Her Sister's Life." Had she, by her actions, put his life in danger? The media was in a frenzy because no one had answers. "Mom, it's confirmed," I said on the cell. "I am a father twice over. Thank God. Be prepared to leave tomorrow at 7 a.m. from the car lot. I will start spreading the news to all." "Have you called your daughters to let them know?" Mom asked. We were now on the road, driving her 2-year-old Ford Escape that was fully loaded, on our way to Ridgefield, Texas. Sophia and I were in the lead, my parents in the dealership's tour bus right behind, with 28 other vehicles following. The tribe was on its way. When my phone rang, Sophia answered it and put it on speaker. "You're being tracked by CNN," Audrey said. "After all, there's a tour bus with a sign that says, 'The Westons are coming, 1 out of 110 should be a match.' Well, we have the DNA test that proves he's really our father." "I've got a new 2-year-old Ford Escape," Sophia replied. "Dad said that if it was confirmed, a huge family would come, but I never expected this." Audrey explained, "It's giving me a new hope that I had never dreamed I would have. It's been so long that I can't remember feeling this good. Dad's family put the word out, it's like they came out of the woodwork. I met so many earlier this morning, I'll have to be introduced repeatedly before I'll begin to remember their names. I met family, first and second cousins, and even third cousins. I'm so proud that I'm going to force Mom to have my last name changed to Lawrence when things calm down. Sophia stated, I never knew that families like this ever existed. I was so overwhelmed that I almost went off the road. That's when I decided I was going to write this amazing experience into my next book. My daughters were still talking about Sophia's experiences when Audrey said she had to go. Her mother had just entered the room. Dad, are you okay? Sophia asked with concern. I saw you get very emotional. To be honest, how do you expect me to feel? I discovered I have two daughters who were raised by a former friend and my ex-wife without my knowledge. One fully vibrates with the fullness of life, the other on the verge of dying. One so strong and independent that she moved mountains without thinking, just like I would. Then I learned that she was already so accepting of me that she wanted to take my name, I replied, pride and emotion overwhelming me. She replied, God, I was so self-centered, I never gave it any thought. I focused on trying to save my sister's life. I wasn't a good match because I inherited a defective gene from our mother. The emotional problems I have caused for all of you are going to be felt for days. Can you forgive me? For what? Coming into my life? For turning everyone I know's lives upside down? Hell no. That's what living is all about. You have given everyone that's coming with us another person to love. That's what really matters. It has given me something I thought I never would have, the chance to be a real dad, I said through tears. Your new grandparents worship the ground you walk on. My mother has a pride in her eyes I haven't seen in years. To her, seeing her face on you means everything. You and your sister, by birthright, have automatically become her favorites. She's been spoiling us rotten. We went shopping. If she bought me an outfit, she got a second one for Nat. She laughed, saying she had years of smothering us to catch up on. That's Mom. She's always been that way, I replied. You're going to find it impossible to distance her from you. I know, I've tried. I said, laughing. Eleanor and my two sisters will be bragging about this for weeks. By the time this adventure is over, it will become a family legend that will be shared for years. We had learned that as soon as Lillian caught the live news feed about our coming, she'd been dealing with major panic attacks. The walls she had built were crumbling down. Audrey, whose spirit had been lifted, was feeling vibrant and strong and confronted her as soon as she hung up the phone. Mom, why did you hide the truth about our real dad? Audrey asked. When she got no answer, she pushed harder. You hid the truth from us, you passed judgment on us, decided our fate. What gives you the right to act like God? Even Dad didn't know. If Sophia hadn't discovered that he existed and gone to find out the truth, would you have let me die? Lillian was silent. Audrey's words had struck her. Lillian realized she had no answers because she never thought the truth would come out. Her father had despised Samuel from the start and had done everything he could to drive him away. Just then, Audrey's doctor walked in. We received the DNA of a man we did not know. It proved he is Audrey's biological father. I'm here to inform you that he is on his way to be tested. It looks like there is a good possibility that he will be a bone marrow match. He should be here tomorrow afternoon, but we are going to keep him under protective guard for his own safety, the doctor said before he left. Mom, my biodad is coming with 120 others, just in case he's not a match. He wanted to make sure I had a fighting chance, Audrey stated. Why? Lillian asked. To him and his family, blood is thicker than water. Though I am a stranger to them, I am family, and family comes first regardless of the cost, she replied. You had to know we look like our real dad's mother. Here, watch this video, I think it proves it all. Lillian watched the video of my family meeting Sophia. There was no doubt, 3 generations shared the same face. She could no longer deny the truth. Her daughters had proof, and her husband's conduct was coming back to destroy their lives. It was then that a man appeared at the entrance of Audrey's room, asking for Lillian. When she admitted she was Lillian Harrison, he handed her a large legal envelope, saying, "You have been served." Lillian fell to her knees, bursting into tears. Audrey was so angry she didn't even feel pity. Mom, why did Grandpa feel he needed to put a contract on my biodad's life? Audrey asked, knowing full well she would get no answer. Victor Harrison had just come out of a corporate meeting. It was one of 6 boards he served on while managing his family's money. Just as he started down the hall, he got served. He sat down in a reception area and opened the envelope to review the documents. The first one was dual and separate, against both him and his wife, for failing to allow Samuel's legal rights as the father of his daughters. The second one was a joint action against his in-laws and himself, claiming they all conspired to destroy his marriage and damage his career. There was no doubt, Samuel wasn't going for revenge, he was going for their throats. He was demanding sole custody of his kids, because if Sophia hadn't come looking for him, he would have never known. Samuel was raising the question of moral abandonment, claiming that Lillian and her husband would have let Audrey die to keep their secrets. Samuel was smart. In a civil case, they would have to prove beyond a doubt that they wouldn't have let Audrey die. With the way the story was being told by the media and how it came out, it would be hard to prove otherwise. He thought back to when he and Samuel were attending university together. They had met as roommates their first year and both ended up on the football team. Lillian had been a cheerleader, and both men had been after her, but Samuel had won her over. He had even been the best man at their wedding. The problem was that Lillian's father had never approved of Samuel because he didn't come from the right side of the tracks. Her father had convinced Victor to go after his daughter, and he'd agreed. He had been surprised at how easy it had all worked out. When Samuel got hired on with the FBI, Lillian's father had used his influence to keep him busy. Using his power in the CIA, he influenced the FBI to get Samuel involved in joint assignments that would require him to be away during social events. Her father would arrange for Victor and Lillian to be together, thinking that given time, human nature would get in the way and their attraction for each other would grow. Thanks to her father's manipulations, Samuel had to go deep undercover for 2 months. During that time, Lillian and Victor became lovers, unbeknownst to Samuel. Unknown to either one of them, her father had captured everything, waiting for Samuel when he got out: videos, photographs, audio tapes, and details of locations, all dated. The problem was that Lillian did not realize she was pregnant because she thought, due to the stress of Samuel's situation, she was just late. To her father's glee, Samuel filed for divorce as soon as he found out. The twins were born shortly afterward, and her father ensured that Samuel was fired by creating false charges against him. It had taken Samuel 4 years to clear his name. He had to leave the area in disgrace, a ruined man. Lillian and Victor married after the twins were born and now had 2 sons together as well. The unedited tapes from back then, according to Lillian's father, would prove that he and Victor conspired to break them up. The question he was now asking himself was what Lillian would do when that fact came out. Sophia, I, and the family caravan arrived at our last stop of the night around 8:30 p.m. After nearly 14 hours of driving, we were exhausted. We ordered a light bite to eat delivered to our rooms, and we were soon fast asleep until the wake-up call at 5 a.m. Sophia and I pulled out early to get a head start. Unknown to the rest, I had an appointment with the police officer I had spoken to and a representative of the FBI. The rest of the caravan would be leaving at 7. Sophia dropped me off at the Ridgefield Police Department on Oakwood Lane, where I was met by Detective Martin, who had been investigating Sophia's disappearance. She then headed over to the Evergreen Wellness Center to catch up with her sister. It took Detective Martin, Special Agent Chris Sanders from the FBI, and me over an hour and a half to discuss everything. My former father-in-law was being questioned. I gave them my lawyer's contact information, explaining that if they were building a case for criminal charges, the information they had received from me could benefit them. I left them a stick with all the information I held. I was now under official protection status until I left town. Afterwards, with a security escort, I was taken over to the hospital to have my blood drawn to see if I would be a bone marrow match. Sophia and Audrey were talking, and I could hear their voices as I approached her private room. The blood sample needed for testing had already been taken, all that was left was the waiting. The nursing staff and hospital security staff all knew who I was and were prepared. One of the nurses recognized me under my pen name. She pulled a hardcover copy of one of my books, which I gladly signed. I started to walk into Audrey's room. "Dad," Sophia said in surprise. "I didn't expect you to be here this soon." "Audrey, this is our dad, Samuel Lawrence," she said proudly. Audrey looked fragile. Her skin hung loosely on her body, and her face showed that she was nearing the end. She had lost so much weight, it was almost like she was skin and bones. But the smile on her face was a mile wide, and her eyes showed the brightness of hope. Audrey, they're rushing the test, it should be done in about 30 minutes. The rest of the family caravan is checking into the hotels where they're staying. My parents are having their bone marrow drawn right now and will be up to meet you as soon as they're done. Your doctor agrees that if there is more than one match, we will do a double transplant in both arms, I said, trying not to allow my emotions to break through. Audrey lost it and started to cry. I walked over, sat on the edge of the bed, and held her in my arms for the first time until she calmed down. Sophia captured an image of us, both shedding our tears. It was a mixture of joy and relief. Sophia was glowing with pride, and she had every right to be. I realized just how much she had done. I was overwhelmed, seeing my two daughters together for the first time. Grandma, Grandpa, Sophia said, come in and meet my sister. The five of us talked for a good hour at least before Audrey's doctor came in, his face full of smiles. It turned out my mother and I were a perfect match. The question I have, Dr. Morris asked, is, are you two prepared to be checked in so that we can perform the operation tomorrow morning at 6 a.m.? We both said yes. My dad whispered, thank God. We were praying for a miracle the whole way up. Don't you need my mom's permission? Audrey asked. Normally, we do, but we were served with a court order this morning, thanks to Mr. Lawrence, that allows us to proceed if he or one of his relatives was a match. The judge agreed with your father's lawyer that your mother and her husband were not putting your needs first, Dr. Morris explained. It also states that he will cover all costs not covered by insurance. Sophia smiled and said, I'm not surprised, sis. With what Mom and Victor did, Dad really didn't have a choice. Legally, he has no rights, so he used the courts to his advantage. Every delay means a higher risk for recovery. Dad has no reason to believe that they would do the right thing. He made sure there was no opportunity to cause further delay. Just then, a security guard came in to inform me that we were about to be on the national news. Audrey switched the TV channel to CNN, where it was revealed that my alter identity as an author was now public knowledge. They disclosed that I was the writer of a series of popular books that had been sold worldwide. Sophia, Audrey, and the doctor were amazed. CNN was reporting that I was worth an estimated $25 million. Boy, were they off. I was tempted to laugh and say, fake news. My dad and mom looked at me in amazement. They had no idea. They thought I made my living as an independent corporate financial advisor. My God, Dad, Audrey said in amazement, I've read every single one of your books. They're great. I laughed. After the destruction of my former life, I had to reinvent myself. Writing for me was a type of therapy. I'm glad that I did. It took a few years, but the first book was a huge personal success, and it's grown since then. I keep them current, looking at the world situation, society's views, and morals before exposing the things I do, making sure the raw truth comes out, whether people like it or not. For the first time in 12 years, I got checked into my least favorite place, a hospital. So did my mom. My newest daughter wanted to share a room with me, but the hospital said security would not allow it. Sophia spent the evening running back and forth between 3 different rooms. My dad called a few relatives to let them know what was happening. Lillian and Victor were not pleased when they arrived at the hospital after getting off work. Attitudes towards them had changed overnight. It was Audrey who told them she was being prepared for surgery first thing in the morning. She would receive a double transplant of bone marrow. Audrey explained that it had all been taken out of their hands by an order from the court. How? Lillian asked. Mom, my biodad, and his mother are perfect matches. Both are going under so I can be given a double dose. Both want to see me recover fully, regardless of the cost, Audrey said. Mom, do you know who Arthur Miles is? He's your favorite author. Of course, I know that. Why do you ask? Lillian replied sarcastically. You're right, but did you know that Arthur Miles is a pen name? His real name is Samuel William Lawrence, and he's my biodad. Lillian and Victor's faces went white. They had hoped the upcoming court case would go away after a few days by throwing money at it. Samuel's net worth made it clear it wasn't money he was interested in, it was justice. Samuel had always believed in law and order. That's what had made him a successful agent until he was terminated. Mom, did you know Grandpa has been in FBI custody all day? You might want to check with Grandma to see if he has made it home, Sophia said with a big smile. Lila and I would both like to know. Lillian fell silent, absorbing the shock, her face pale. Audrey continued, her tone laced with a calm, restrained anger. You hid the truth from us, you decided our lives for us, and in doing so, you nearly cost us everything, Audrey said firmly. You never told us who our real father was. If it weren't for Sophia's determination, I'd never have known the truth. Lillian glanced down, guilt written all over her face. But Audrey's voice remained unwavering. Mom, all I wanted was to know who I am, to understand where I came from. Sophia and I were kept in the dark for so long, and now everything's changed because of that secret. Lillian attempted to speak, but Audrey held up a hand. You don't need to explain it to me, Mom. You need to make peace with yourself. I'm going to be fine, thanks to Dad, Sophia, and the rest of our family who showed up to support me. Lillian, visibly shaken, finally managed to say, I'm sorry, Audrey. I really am. I didn't know that hiding the truth would bring so much harm. I was wrong. Audrey's face softened slightly, and she gave a small nod. Maybe one day, we can rebuild our trust, but it'll take time. Lillian looked away, her expression a mix of shame and regret, while Audrey turned her attention to her sister, who had been standing quietly by her side. Just then, a nurse entered the room, breaking the tension. Ms. Lawrence, she said, addressing Audrey, the surgery team is ready, and your family is all here to support you. Audrey smiled, relief flooding her face. Thank you. Sophia and I joined her in the elevator, along with my parents, Hannah, and several family members who had arrived with us. In the hallway, we hugged each other, each of us trying to hold back our emotions. As Audrey was wheeled down the hallway toward the operating room, Sophia and I stayed close, holding her hands. I leaned down, giving her a reassuring smile. I'm so proud of you, Audrey. Everything's going to be okay. We're here for you. She squeezed my hand, whispering, Thank you, Dad. We all took seats in the waiting room, tension thick in the air. My mother sat beside me, holding my hand tightly, while my father paced back and forth, checking his watch every few minutes. Hannah brought us coffee, and we all braced ourselves for the hours ahead. After a few hours, the doctor entered the waiting room, his face calm and steady. The transplant went well, he said, addressing us with a reassuring smile. It'll take time, but Audrey's body should respond positively. We'll monitor her closely, and if everything continues to progress, she'll be on the road to a full recovery. A collective sigh of relief filled the room, and my mother burst into tears of happiness, clutching me tightly. Sophia hugged me too, and I could feel the tension leaving her body. It was as if a great weight had been lifted from all of us. As Audrey was moved to the recovery room, we were allowed to visit her 2 at a time. Sophia and I were the first to go in. Audrey looked tired, but she gave us a small, brave smile. Hey, look who's a fighter, I said softly, taking her hand. She chuckled weakly, I couldn't have done it without you guys. You've got a whole family behind you now, Audrey, Sophia said, holding her other hand. We're all here, and we're not going anywhere. Audrey's eyes filled with tears, and she whispered, I love you, Dad. And I love you, Sophia. I'm so lucky to have you both. We stayed by her side for a while, just talking, before letting the rest of the family come in to see her. My parents, Hannah, Eleanor, and a few close relatives took turns visiting her, each bringing words of encouragement. The next few days were a whirlwind of recovery and cautious optimism. Audrey's strength slowly returned, and with each passing day, her color and energy improved. The family's spirits were high, and everyone was ready to rally around her. Eventually, after a week in the hospital, Audrey was discharged. My parents and I arranged a small welcome home gathering, and Hannah took charge of organizing everything. It was a simple event, but it was filled with warmth, joy, and family, something Audrey hadn't experienced in a long time. As Audrey settled into my parents' guest room, she looked around, visibly moved. Thank you for everything, Dad, she said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. I finally feel like I'm where I belong. I sat beside her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. Welcome home, Audrey. You're where you were always meant to be, with your family. Sophia joined us, smiling as she sat on Audrey's other side. You'll never have to go through anything alone again. We're a team. The three of us sat there, basking in the newfound bond we shared. It was a moment I would cherish forever, a reminder of the strength of family and the power of truth. Over the following weeks, Audrey's health continued to improve. She regained weight, her color returned, and her energy levels surged. It was remarkable to see her transformation. Sophia and I kept close tabs on her, along with my parents and Hannah, who had all become a tight-knit support team. Audrey and Sophia developed an inseparable bond, acting like they'd known each other their entire lives. Meanwhile, the media frenzy had only intensified. My ex-wife's family's manipulation, the hidden documents, and my own custody battles became a national story. Lillian and Victor had tried to stay out of the spotlight, but the legal proceedings brought everything to the surface. The court filings, evidence, and witness testimonies painted a detailed picture of the lengths they had gone to deny me my parental rights. One evening, after a day spent with the lawyers preparing for the upcoming hearings, I received a call from my attorney. "Samuel," he said, his tone revealing a hint of excitement. "The latest hearings have taken a turn in your favor. With the media pressure, the evidence we've provided, and your daughter's wishes, there's strong momentum on our side. It's almost certain the court will grant you joint custody of both girls and, with Lillian's agreement, a complete transfer of custodial rights if she feels it's best." I let out a deep sigh of relief. "Thank you. This is everything I've been fighting for." Also, he continued, the judge has stated that based on the circumstances, Lillian may be ordered to attend family therapy sessions with Audrey and Sophia if they wish to build a bridge and move forward. It's a strong recommendation, though not mandatory, and could help her find a constructive way to repair some of the hurt caused. Later that night, I gathered Sophia and Audrey to share the news. "The court is likely to rule in favor of joint custody," I said, sitting down with them at the kitchen table. "And if you both feel it's important, you'll have the option to meet with your mother for therapy sessions." Audrey looked thoughtful. "I know Mom has a lot to work through, and part of me wants to give her a chance, for my sake and Sophia's. But it'll take time." Sophia nodded, adding, "She's done a lot of damage, but I think Audrey's right. If she's willing to meet us halfway and take accountability, we can try." Hearing their maturity and resilience filled me with pride. These young women had been through so much, yet here they were, willing to extend grace and hope. Over the next several months, we adjusted to our new lives together. Sophia and Audrey both officially changed their last names to Lawrence, a decision that brought them immense pride. The family grew even closer, especially with Hannah by my side. During one of our quiet dinners at home, I turned to her, realizing how much she'd been through with me. "Hannah," I began, taking her hand. "I don't know where I'd be without you. You've been my rock through all of this." She looked at me with a gentle smile. "You're my best friend, Samuel, and I'm so proud of how far you've come. You've shown the world what it means to fight for family." We sat in silence for a moment, simply enjoying each other's company, until I finally asked, "Are you ready for this? For everything that comes with a family, 2 teenagers, and all the craziness?" Hannah laughed, squeezing my hand. "I wouldn't have it any other way." One evening, as we gathered in the living room to celebrate Audrey's final clean bill of health, we decided to host a formal family dinner to mark the occasion. My parents, siblings, and extended family came from all over, bringing an atmosphere of love and celebration. Audrey and Sophia took turns expressing their gratitude to everyone, their words filled with warmth and appreciation for the family they had longed for. In the days that followed, life fell into a new rhythm. Audrey and Sophia adapted to living as part of the Lawrence family, attending school nearby and helping each other adjust to the changes. They even became close to Hannah's children, forming a new and unexpected sibling bond that I never could have imagined. With my legal battles finally behind us, the past became just that, a part of our history that shaped who we were but didn't define us moving forward. I was free to focus on the present and build a future with my daughters and Hannah by my side. One afternoon, as I was finishing up a few chapters of my latest book, which now included glimpses of this journey, Hannah walked into my office with a mischievous grin. "What's that smile about?" I asked, setting down my pen. "Well," she replied, "Sophia and Audrey have a surprise for you. They're waiting outside." Curious, I followed her to the backyard, where Sophia and Audrey were waiting with a small cake and a card. They held it up to me, and as I read it, my heart swelled with pride. To the best dad in the world, thank you for finding us, for fighting for us, and for giving us a family we never knew we needed. We love you, Dad. I pulled them both into a tight embrace, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude for everything we'd been through together. In that moment, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together as a family. As the weeks passed, life settled into a peaceful routine. Sophia and Audrey adjusted to their new school, made friends, and started building lives that felt secure and happy. They had quickly become central to our extended family gatherings, loved by my parents and siblings, and deeply woven into the Lawrence family fabric. One morning, as we all gathered for breakfast, Audrey looked over at Hannah, then at me, with a determined expression. "I've been thinking," she began, setting her coffee down, "I want to take part in the family's holiday gathering this year. I think it's time we go all in." The family holiday gathering was an annual tradition, a reunion of dozens of Westons from across the country. It was always held at my parents' place, and it had become a hallmark of the Lawrence family legacy. Hannah, who had become something of a second mom to the girls, looked thrilled. "That's a great idea, Audrey," Hannah said, glancing at me with approval. "It's a chance to introduce you both to the entire family formally." Sophia joined in, excited. "We'll meet the cousins, learn about family traditions, and maybe hear some of those legendary stories Grandpa always tells. I've been dying to experience it." The decision was made we would attend the family holiday gathering as one, bringing Sophia and Audrey fully into the family fold. On the morning of the gathering, we loaded up the car with gifts, food, and decorations. Hannah had gone all out, making sure each gift was wrapped perfectly and that the girls had everything they needed to look and feel like they belonged. As we pulled up to my parents' house, I could see a line of cars, the unmistakable sight of a full Lawrence gathering. Inside, laughter and chatter filled the air. Family members were catching up, children were running around, and my parents were warmly greeting everyone who entered. As we walked through the door, my mother, beaming with pride, came forward to embrace us. "Samuel, Hannah, girls, it's so good to have you here." She hugged Sophia and Audrey, then whispered to them, "You two are about to see what being a Lawrence is all about." My father joined us, his usual stoic expression replaced with a broad smile. "Audrey, Sophia, are you ready for the big family welcome?" The girls laughed, nodding enthusiastically. Throughout the day, family members came by to meet them, each one sharing stories, welcoming words, and the occasional funny tale about their dad from years past. Sophia and Audrey soaked it all in, quickly bonding with cousins and finding their place among the extended family. At one point, my father pulled me aside, his expression serious yet filled with pride. "Samuel," he began, looking at me intently, "you've done something remarkable. You brought these girls back into our lives, and you've shown them what family truly means. I couldn't be prouder of you." "Thanks, Dad," I replied, feeling the weight of his words. "It's been a journey, but it's one I wouldn't trade for anything." As the day turned into evening, the Lawrence family gathered around the fireplace, a tradition where each family member would share one thing they were grateful for from the past year. When it was Sophia's turn, she stood up, taking a deep breath before speaking. "I just want to say how grateful I am to be here with all of you. I didn't know what family was supposed to feel like until I came here, and now I can't imagine my life without it. Thank you for welcoming me and Audrey, it means the world to us." Audrey stood beside her, smiling as she added, "And I want to thank my dad, for finding us, for fighting for us, and for giving us the family we never thought we'd have. It's been the best gift we could have asked for." Tears filled my eyes as I listened to their words, overwhelmed by the love and gratitude we all felt. Hannah slipped her hand into mine, squeezing it gently. In that moment, surrounded by family and filled with joy, I knew our journey had come full circle. Later that night, as we drove home, the girls fell asleep in the back seat, and Hannah leaned her head against my shoulder. "You did it, Samuel," she whispered. "You brought them home, and you've given them everything they deserve." I looked at her, smiling softly. "No, we did it. You've been by my side every step of the way." As we pulled into the driveway, I glanced back at Sophia and Audrey, peacefully asleep. In the quiet of that moment, I felt an unbreakable bond, a deep sense of belonging that would carry us through whatever challenges life might bring. And as I tucked my daughters into bed that night, I knew that we were not just a family by blood but a family by choice, by love, and by an unbreakable commitment to each other. No matter what lay ahead, we would face it together, and I was ready to give them the life they deserved. In the months that followed, our lives blossomed in ways I hadn't even thought possible. Audrey and Sophia fully embraced being part of the Lawrence family, excelling in school and joining extracurricular activities. They quickly became known for their outgoing personalities and their undeniable sibling bond. I marveled at how far we had come from those first tentative days of reuniting. Hannah and I had become a rock-solid team, sharing responsibilities and finding joy in the simplest of moments with the girls. One afternoon, while we were gathered for a family lunch, Hannah gave me a small, thoughtful smile and handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked, opening it carefully. Inside was a note in Hannah's familiar handwriting. "Will you marry me?" Below her question was a yes/no checkbox with a tiny heart drawn next to it. I looked up in surprise, and Hannah's grin widened. "You've been so busy making our lives perfect that I thought I'd surprise you for a change," she said, laughing as she held out a ring box. The girls were already in on it, their eyes sparkling with excitement. Sophia nudged me playfully. "Come on, Dad. It's time you made an honest woman out of her." I laughed, barely able to contain my happiness. I looked at Hannah, nodding emphatically as I checked the yes box. "Yes, 100 times, yes," I said, pulling her into a hug while the girls cheered. The wedding planning soon began, and Hannah and the girls dove into every detail. Hannah wanted a simple but meaningful ceremony, and the girls had all sorts of ideas for decorations, music, and activities. It was clear this would be a family affair, and everyone was thrilled to take part in celebrating our new beginning together. The day of the wedding arrived, bringing perfect weather and a feeling of excitement that buzzed through the air. We chose to hold it in a small botanical garden in our hometown, surrounded by close family and friends. Hannah looked radiant in a simple, elegant dress, her eyes meeting mine as she walked down the aisle. The ceremony was filled with laughter and tears. Hannah's daughter, Tessa, played a beautiful melody on her violin as Sophia and Audrey stood by our sides, each of them sharing a heartfelt message for their new blended family. When it was my turn to speak, I took Hannah's hands, looking into her eyes as I said, "Hannah, you're the partner I didn't know I needed, and you've shown me what real love and loyalty mean. You were there for me through every storm, helping me find strength I didn't know I had. Today, I'm not just promising myself to you, I'm promising myself to our family, to our daughters, and to this life we're building together." Hannah's voice trembled slightly as she replied, "Samuel, you've given me a love I never expected to find again. You've made me feel safe, cherished, and hopeful about the future. I promise to stand by you, to laugh with you, to cry with you, and to be everything we need as we grow together." As we exchanged rings and sealed our vows with a kiss, the family erupted into applause. Sophia and Audrey rushed forward, wrapping us in a tight hug, followed by Tessa and Hannah's son, Noah. In that moment, surrounded by all of them, it felt like a perfect beginning. After the ceremony, the reception was filled with lively music, heartfelt toasts, and joyful dancing. My father gave a moving speech about family, resilience, and the power of love, while my mother looked on with tears of happiness. The girls took turns dancing with both Hannah and me, their laughter and smiles filling the evening with memories we'd cherish forever. As the night drew to a close, we all gathered for a final toast. With our glasses raised, I looked around at the faces of those I loved most and said, "Here's to new beginnings, to family, and to love that conquers all." We may have faced challenges, but we've come out stronger, together. In unison, everyone responded, "To family." That night, as Hannah and I sat together, watching the stars, we talked about the future, about the adventures, challenges, and joys we looked forward to sharing. Our family was now whole, and together, we knew we could face anything life had in store. In the days that followed, we settled into our new chapter as a blended family. We'd always have the memories of the past, but we were focused on building a life filled with laughter, growth, and the unbreakable bonds we'd forged. Hannah and I promised ourselves that we'd cherish each day, knowing that we were not just husband and wife, but a team who had created a family grounded in love, resilience, and unshakable trust. And with every moment that passed, I knew that we were living the life I had once only dreamed of, a life where love truly brought us home. Thank you for joining us on this heartfelt journey of love, resilience, and family. What part of this story touched your heart the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more inspiring tales. See you in the next one.